Very good evening, everybody, and welcome to a short series of additional programs. And we'll be looking at aspects of spiritualism. Throughout the month of November, we've got a wonderful array of guests coming in to talk about spiritualism, their views, their understanding, their story with it. Tonight needs no introduction, but I will, for those who don't know this gentleman, the lovely Keith Charles. I've had the great pleasure of meeting Keith 5 times now in the real world, as we're getting used to saying. And we have worked together online, presenting with Bill Rich as well earlier on in the year. So Keith, absolute pleasure to have you back with us. Thank you so
much. Laurie. It's all mine. It's all mine, mate. Love your church. Love your church.
Thank you. It is behind here. It's behind these hills. I'm saving on electric. This way I don't have to turn all the lights on. So, aspects of spiritualism. Very broad and ranging topic, but I do think it's one very, very worthwhile bringing in at the moment. I know we have spoken online, and I think we're pretty much of the same mind line that the advent of the online experience through the situations at this time has created great opportunities, really good opportunities for learning, educational, understanding. But like all things, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. And again, we are seeing, here's an interesting little thing. You know when you put the hashtags in to advertise something?
Yeah.
I put in a hashtag of spiritualism, and it shows there's something like 200,000 hits. Hashtag of mediumship, just to find out what it was, and it was something like 10 million hits. And I'm just, I look at all this going on, and all education is wonderful. Spirit is intelligence. They work with us intelligently, and it is also up to us to work with them intelligently. But spiritualism isn't all about a message. I've always described mediumship to me as the sprinkles on top of the cake, the real sustenance, the real depth, the real, satisfying part is the cake itself. So spiritualism, broad topic, but we will be talking to people who have been spiritualists and practicing mediums for many years, with understandings, their own story to tell, and also to help you lovely people at home ask questions, because only by asking questions do we get an answer. And I always say no question is stupid if you don't know the answer. So don't hold back if you've got any questions. So Keith, how did you become involved in spiritualism?
Well, I won't go through the whole story, but we'd come up to, like lots of people, they will say they've had, it started with me with like dreams coming true, meeting a guide. Well, I didn't know it was a guide, it was a ghost, meeting somebody when I was young, which frightened the life out of me initially. And the real impact it had on me was I was with my wife. We were engaged at that time, not Chrissy at the moment, my first wife, who sadly passed in the COVID back in April. But she was a nurse, and she was a nurse at St. George's, and I was a cop. And she was working till 7:30, 7:45. That was her shift. I'd been working all day, went over to her flat, and it was like 5:15, 5:30. I'm just sat on the bed, and I'm sort of sitting like this thinking, what should we do later? Shall we go down the club? Shall we do this? And as I'm talking, nothing to do with spiritualism, I'm talking to myself, as lots of us think to do. But I just get this voice saying, look at the door. And it was one of these, like, you've got a head teacher who's directing you, not asking. It's like, look at the door. And when I looked at the door, there was my grandfather, who is where I've got my name Keith Charles, my middle name being Keith William Charles Wright, but there's a reason I use the name Charles. It worked perfectly for me as being a police officer. If people asked for DC Wright, then I knew it was to do with work. If they said can I speak to Keith Charles? It was to do with mediumship. So that's why we get that out of the way. So
Interesting.
yeah, so I see my grandfather, and I freaked, to be honest. It's like, oh my God, what is this? What is this? You know, I've never seen anything as 5:30, you know, in the afternoon. It's quite. I went over to A&E where my wife was working as a nurse, and she said, "What are you doing over here?" I said, "I'll tell you later." She said, "Well, go in and have a cup of tea in the nurse's room." And she came and said, "What is it?" I said, "I've just seen my granddad. He was stood down there, blah, blah, blah." I said, "Really?" So that's the first time I think a medium had to go to A&E at hospital because they saw a ghost. But that was how it had such an impact on me, because I knew it was real. I wasn't making it up. I wasn't doing anything else. Anyway, as time went on, we had children, and she was doing some nursing, and I'd had little things go on that I kind of had when I was in uniform. Going back to that, I just used to think I was clever, and I don't mean this really. I've done duty on the front of Downing Street. It can be boring, Trafalgar, Trafalgar Square, wherever it might be. You get these fixed posts, and like you get bored. Quite honestly, you've got to sit here all day, stand here all day, should I say? People come up and I go, and this is just an example, Laurie. I'm not trying to give you a message. You go, "Hello, could you tell me where Buckingham Palace is?" I said, "I could." I said, "You're from, for argument's sake, you're from Dorset, aren't you?" And you go, "How do you know? You've got a brother, haven't you? How do you know?" And I'm making a conversation with these little images and pieces of words that come in, and it's like, "Oh, well, it's nice talking to you, officer." And they go, "I must think what a cuckoo he is," you know. But when going back to when we sort of went further, my wife was going to this hospital that she was working privately. You know, this wasn't A&E, and they had a patient who passed, and there was a lady there called Rosina. And as nurses do, they were, I think they used this term when they were being laid out. You know, they were doing what they have to do. And they were laying out, and my wife said to Rosina, "I wonder where they are now." And then she said, "Probably standing here watching us." And that invoked a conversation about life after death. And then she said, "Keith, why don't you, I speak to this lady Rosina, why don't you go and speak to her?" So I said, "Okay, why?" She said, "No, I think you'll find it interesting." So I went to see her at her house, and she said to me, "Keith, you might be a medium, is that right?" I said, "I don't know, what's a medium?" And she started to tell me. She said, "Look, what I want you to do, Keith," she said, and at that time I was working on the fraud squad, and she said, "I want you to go home and write a picture, show me a picture, the best you can do, draw a picture about my mum." I said, "I've got A-level art, but I can't draw." You know, she said, "I just want you to do it." All week, every time I drew this picture, every time it got to the left-hand side of her face, I had to rub it out. I don't know why, but I couldn't rub it out. I just couldn't accept it. So I went to see her, knocked on the door. "Come in, Keith. How did you get on with the picture?" She said, "Well, I'm sorry, Rosina, but every time I draw it, I can't draw the left." She said, "That's all the proof I wanted." I said, "Pardon?" She said, "My mother had cerebral palsy, and she wouldn't allow anybody to draw her, take a picture of her, or even see her on the left-hand side." And then she said to me, "Go and have a word with my dad. He is a medium." And his name was Percy Webster. So that's how it came in. I saw Percy, ended up going to Hampton Hill Spiritualist Church. He said, "I'm a medium." I said, "What's a medium?" He said, "I'll take you to church. I'll show you what we do." I'm sat in the stall, sat in the hall, just watching. And he said, "And now my friend Keith is going to get up and give a message." And I turned to my wife and said, "How the hell do you do that?" And before I knew it, I was on my feet. And he went and sat down. And these words just come from, I could have been talking Chinese for all I know. it's almost like spirit were guiding me. Do you know what I mean? It was like, and I finished. It seemed like it had been a week that I was on my feet. It was probably 10 minutes. I sat down and I thought, I want to do this. I want to do this. So spirit had engineered this little story I'm telling you that took me from knowing nothing other than, first of all, meeting my granddad. You know, I'm making this very short. To that's where I started.
Wonderful, absolutely wonderful. I can really relate. You said something there about the voice was not sort of like suggesting, it was commanding.
Yes.
I had that one experience as well once, and a voice just said something to me. It said about don't go down there, and I was going to go down there. I won't explain the situation, but I just went, oh, okay. It was. I didn't question it. I went, oh, all right. I'm out on my own, so I went the other way. And it turned out there was a very good reason why I should not have gone down there. But it was that authority with it, but gentle authority. It's not a barked order. It was like somebody you trust.
I think that's perfect because on the same, just one other little thing, I was working when I had been working for some time. And as you know, I've had health issues and I couldn't drive. And I was getting the train home. And Christine, my wife, a best pal I've ever had, she came to pick me up. It's about 11:30 at night to get at me a station. And she said, she got in the car and this voice said to her, lock the doors. And she got to wait 5 minutes before the station, you know, the train arrived. And a drunk tried to get in the front car with her. Now, it could have been to any woman, but to any man, it could have been very difficult. So I think there are lots of reasons why we have the example that you do and the example that I do, because they are things that, when I say this in a nice way, nothing happened, nothing untoward happened, but something positive happened. You believe it. You believe it. You know, that is the difference.
And also, I find when you're dealing very in depth with spirit, the memory stays. You know, to this day, I can describe where I was, what I was doing, what time of day it was, how that voice sounded, how I felt, how I reacted. And it wasn't until about an hour later I suddenly thought, what was all that about?
Yeah.
Why did that happen? It was just so natural. And to me, when you're working that, you know, when spirit are that close, it's just impressed. It's there forever. You can recall it in every detail. So you started off, this friend of yours threw you on the platform. That's always that's always cheerful. I know. I love it. About a week, I felt like I was up there for a week.
Yeah.
But, you know, where did you take your views of spiritualism from there on in?
Well, I think it starts before that. And I think this is important to any medium. I'm very blessed to have had a lovely family. All right. So my dad's side of the family were lorry drivers. There was our family had, and goes back to years, had a haulage business. My mum's side of the family were greengrocers. And my grandfather had greengrocery shops. And so you kind of understand things like discipline. You understand loyalty. You understand honesty. You understand how to speak to people. Like, because I'd go and work in the shop and I'd go out with my dad in a lorry. You know, it's kind of, I'm learning all the time with, you know, not to how to drive, but how to behave with people. And I think that's important. So I then had this wonderful opportunity. I went to a church. This is what happened. I went to Kingston Church and I saw a medium and I watched and I'm thinking, how do they do that? How do they do that? How do they do that? And this lady said, oh, I run a development class. I said, what's a development class? You know, that's how ignorant I was about it. And she said, oh, I run every Thursday down in Crawley, and it's from 7:30 till 9 o'clock or whatever the time was. I never missed. And I went there, and after about 4 or 5 weeks of doing it, I thought, I don't like this. I don't like it. And I said to the lady that was running it, I said, I'm really sorry, but I don't feel comfortable here. And she was quite honest. She said, okay, it's not for you then, Keith, leave. I did. Within 2 weeks, the whole circle had left because people, she told me after, because I was very novice, didn't know, there were people that were doing it for themselves, that were trying to become, I want to take over, I want to do this. So there was no harmony in it. So I met a lady, a wonderful lady, and she's on Facebook, called Madge Summerfield. And she gave me so much knowledge from her, how to discipline, how to create a message, how to do other things. And she was quite funny because her background, she was from the circus, and all my family, this is quite funny, my mum's side of the family, they didn't use polite words. We'll put it that way. So you had to, you understand what it means when people tell you to go away, and then when I was obviously in the police, it wasn't anything new when people said, go away, officer, but in a, because I'm used to that. I was lucky, and Madge would tell me things, I want to say, in the language that I understood. None of this, the great world of spirit is telling you this, that, and that. Keith, you're doing it wrong. Why am I doing it wrong? Because of so-and-so. That I understand. And I think everybody, I've been lucky, and this is not to be clever, I've been lucky that I've worked, I do apologise, I've worked with all sorts of people from all sorts of walks of life. And I've worked in lovely places. I'm not talking as a medium. I'm talking about in also, and people, everybody will understand my language. I'm a bit rough and ready, whatever it might be, but they understand it. And they understand it on a table, not on a table. I'm so sorry, on a stage. And when you're actually giving a message, give it in simple words. In words that people understand. There are lots of things I don't like about presentation of mediumship. There's lots about it. And I think what they do, lots of people, and you ask me any questions, I'll tell you honestly, I find that lots of people hide behind this thing that you get a lot. Spirit are telling me. My question is, who are spirit? Spirit are telling me. Who's telling you? Who's telling you? Because it is, to me, to a lot of people, if you just say spirit are telling me, that is just, I want to say, a load of bull. If I say your dad's telling me, you can then hang it on to me and say, what did my dad look like? What did my dad do? Whereas if I say spirit are telling me, it's just an image. Do you see what I'm trying to get across? It's like, be real, people. Be real. So that's where I started. And interrupt me at any time, please, because I don't mind. Is that I then said to Madge, I want to go out and do demonstrations. She said, you're good enough. I'm talking about churches now. I'm not talking about. She said, yeah, you're good enough. So in those days, when I started 40 years ago, there was something called the Psychic News. Some people might be familiar with it, some people not. And in the back, it had all the churches that had their names, and Monday, Lawrence Saville, 8:30, clairvoyance, just for argument's sake. So I wrote letters to somewhere in around 300 or 400 churches, saying, very quietly, just saying, hi, my name's Keith Charles. I'm a new medium. Would you be kind enough to, if you have the opportunity, to give me the opportunity to serve your church? That kind of thing, and that was it. And that's how it started.
Yeah. Going right back to the beginning where you were saying about talking directly. I find with spiritualism, one of the key attributes everybody has got to have is complete and utter honesty, and especially with themselves, you know, because there is an energy or a propensity or the possibility there of getting carried away. And that phrase, spirit told me, you know, and I'm like, I say exactly the same. What spirit? Who? You don't stand in a room and some stranger walk up to you and say, go and talk to that person. You go, well, who are you? Why do you want me to do that? And it's understanding that intelligent side. But when you started going out and serving the churches there, would that have been just on the mediumship side, or did you bring in like on the divine services or with the philosophy?
I did anything and everything, and I cheated a bit. When I say this, I believe mediums are maybe better at one part of their gift than maybe not. They're not really a jack of all trades, but they have a go at anything, right? To try it, to taste it. It's like getting a menu and they go, no, I don't like meat, I prefer eggs, that kind of thing. And it's the same. So I prefer, to be honest, doing my clairvoyance, my mental mediumship. That's what. So I said to Madge, who gives lovely philosophy, I'd say, just for instance, Paul Church want me to come down and do it then. I said, will you come with me, Madge? She said, what for? I said, do the philosophy, do the reading, do the address. Okay, she said. So after about 6 months to a year, I said, this is silly, Madge. She said, what's silly? I said, you're a very good medium. I've learned from you sufficiently, I believe, to do a demonstration and an opening prayer and what might be needed, a reading or a little bit of philosophy, and so are you. So Spirit have now got two of us individually working.
Yeah.
And I think this is another little thing, and there's probably lots of people that want to do it, is that when you get people say, I've got to work with my friend, there's two of us, why? Big question, why? Because visually, for me, seeing two mediums working, it never works well. Never. And I'll tell you why, as an example. I get there and you give a great message. I'm working with you, Laurie, all right? You get up, you give a great message, you're flowing, everything's working. And the medium sat next to you goes, oh, that's good. I'll get in here. And I go, did your dad have a bad back? No. Did he like dogs? No. Did he go fishing? No. So all that energy that you've built up, all the wonderful message, the last thing people remember are the 4 or 5 no's. So it doesn't work. And you don't learn as a medium when you're working with somebody. It's okay when you get somebody who is, if you've got a student come up there and you have student nights, I'm all for that. But I'm not a lover. And I've worked with great mediums. I've never worked alongside unless you're doing the last message together, you know. But then what I do, and I'm not saying this is the same for everybody, I will say, what are you good at doing in a message? And you go, just for instance, illnesses and relationships, you know, like this is somebody's brother, somebody's mother, or whatever it might. I go, oh, good, because I like doing Z. You go, okay, you do that. When you've done that, I'll do my bit. So you're working together, but you're not together, if that makes sense. And you're not crossing over because you muddy the water, in my opinion. That's my opinion. I'm sure lots of people say, oh, no, Keith, we work really well together. Well, one of you is not being open. Yeah, you're not being open.
Yeah.
You know.
Because, and it is, you said something there, and I thought very true. You know, you said we don't all work the same, and that is so true, because spiritualism will give us the foundation work. When we start to learn more, we go back into the history of it, we look up some of the greats, and it gives you the keystone. But spirit and you will form a totally unique link, and you will work on that link, on that level, on that energy,
and you will change. You will change, ladies and gentlemen. You will change. When I started, like when I used to begin, I was really nervous. So you always found 5 minutes on your own to try and get back on. Then I got to a stage where I liked listening to music. Then it had to be rock music. Then it had to be tribal type of music. Then I didn't want any music. Then now I'm in a phase where before I get up on stage, I feel miserable. You know, I feel like I just feel that my own self is being drained away and I get nothing. And you stand up and you think, I've got nothing. And you go, oh, Lawrence, I'd like to come to you. Your dad's called Peter Brown. He did this, did that. And you think, where did this come from? I'm a healthy skeptic. I've been doing this 40 years and I still don't know where it comes from sometimes. And if I could just explain that, what I mean is you see people on stage on a church, wherever it might be, and mediums do this a lot. It's like, I'd like to come to you. And in their mind, they're looking at a gentleman. And they go, I'd like to come to you, madam. And they've changed direction in that split second because spirit are the ones that are in control, not you. And if you, ladies and gentlemen, if you ever think you're going to go onto a platform and you say, I'm going to have this person, I'm going to have this condition, I'm going to do this, you're lost. You are lost because all you're doing is you're basically might as well read a book.
Yeah.
Learn a book.
That's very true. And it's something that's oft overlooked. That mediums, when we go up and work on platforms, you know, we are there to the the discretionary terms of the congregation. Well, I've got bad news for you because I'm not. When I get on platform, and I'm sure Keith will verify this, and most mediums, we're not actually working for the congregation. We work for spirit.
Do you know what? I was talking to somebody today, and I was saying, because I've got this big thing about the huge influx of everybody wanting everything done in 5 minutes. You know, whether it's messages from, I'm sorry to say, there's cards, whatever cards they might be. If they want to do healing, they don't want to spend 2 years. They want to do it quicker. Whatever it is, it's got to be quick. They all want to find a new hook to say, oh, yeah, I'm this, I'm that, I'm what the ever. The thing is, how many people would do what they talk about? And I'll ask you, you could say, how many people would be a medium, be a healer, if there was no money? If there was no money, the government says tomorrow mediums are not to get paid, readings, healing, whatever. What would that mean? I wonder how many honest people would say, I'll do it for nothing, right? Because there's too much ego in whatever we do. I've got ego. Every medium's got ego. It's whether you control it and use it as a positive ego and control it. I know who I am. You know, I mean that nicely. I know who I am. I'm loud. I'm vociferous. I'm passionate. But if you said to me, Keith, my church is in trouble, I need to get £1,000 as soon as I can. I say, Laurie, I'll pick up the phone. I will come down. I will have 4 mediums down there. I will get you worked out for 3 mediums for the next month. I'm not saying you need it, but you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's what the brotherhood of mediumship should be about.
And this is it, isn't it, with spiritualism? It's very prone to people wanting to make money out of it. It's also very prone to people, you know, our culture today is about our image. When we used to say, oh, I wish I was 21 again, I don't think there's anybody of our generation that wants to be 21 today, because it's all about image. It's always about the outward facing side of us and seeing, you know, and they see, oh, you mediums up there, you do wonderful work, you know, and not being disrespectful, you don't understand what we're doing. You're just seeing a snapshot, this little candid snapshot of us at that time. And the fact, you know, getting up on platform, I do it because I love working with spirit. I'm not doing it.
Stop there, Lawrence.
All right, I'll stop there.
Say that again. Say that again. I do it
Because I love working with spirit.
and that should be everybody's motto, in my opinion. I do it because I love it. You don't do it because you want money. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I didn't mean to interrupt you in a rude
No,
way,
that's
but
fine.
it was a very important sentence because spirit know, that people will help you. People will look after you. I have worked all over the world. I've worked all through churches. I've had good experiences. I've had bad experiences, but I'm still doing it.
Yeah.
I've had health issues. I've nearly passed to the spirit world, but I love what I do and I do what I love. And the only way I can do it is because I honestly believe, I'm not a saint, but I honestly believe I must be doing something reasonably well because they've helped me in my strokes, in my heart attacks. I've sat at a hospital of my son's bed when he had meningitis and he was touch and go. I've lost a son. This is not saying poor old Keith, because there are lots of people like that. But love is everlasting. It really is. And if you love what you do and you do what you love, I will rail with you, Lawrence. I will rail with anybody. But at the core, we're really getting across what we want to talk about, what we want to say, what we want to, if you like, present to people, that we are normal people. Normal. But what is normal?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's so true. There's a question here popped in. Let's get back from Jeanette Sand. Yeah, quite interesting actually, Jeanette. So going back to the voices that told us, she was just asking, where do we think those voices come from?
Well, sorry.
It's all right. I'm just knocking the microphone.
on my when I got my grandfather, right, I have found out, because I had another experience when I was about 8 at a swimming pool and a cousin of mine was drowning and he was about 18 months old. It was the same voice, and I have found out that it was my guide, who is called Tobias, who has been with me ever since. But we're talking about what happened for me. I didn't know about guides. I didn't know. It's like, well, when I'm talking to people, it's like I'm clever. I wasn't clever at all, because I'm a bit like the puppet, I used to say that, my name's Keith Charles, not Lord Charles. He's a dummy who wears glasses. And I thought, not much difference there then, is there? But yes, Jeanette, that they are normally your spiritual guide, and it's something that loves you. And it could be initially, lots of people, when we're talking about guides, would find somebody who, like my granddad, who would help me. I used to say to him, "Come on, Grandad, give us a hand. I don't know where to go here," or before we had sat nav and that sort of thing. So you get up to talking to people from the spirit world.
Yeah, I would go along with the guide link, because I just remember the strength of it, but it was gentle. I can't really put it into earthly terms. It wasn't an order that was barked. It was just a gentle command, and it had me totally in its thrall for that split second, enough for me to just walk on and not question it. And that was the thing that got me. It was half an hour later, and I was like, hang on, what was that about? But it was just so natural. So I think definitely on a guide link there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I found out later it was Tobias, but I didn't know when I was, if you like, ignorant of guides and that type of thing.
No, we were all ignorant of a lot of aspects of spiritualism. And it's only by talking, reading and sharing things that we learn and grow. So Stephen Mega.
Hi, Stephen. I was just looking at that, the Fraudulent Mediums Act. We can talk about that in just a sec. And the language regarding payment. And did you have any experience with this as a policeman? Yes. And now, what happened was the Fraudulent Mediums Act has now been repealed in part, if not all of it, because we have the when you buy and sell things. Sorry, my stroke does this to
Consumer.
me. Yeah, yeah. When
Yeah.
you get the consumer action, and what it stands at now, Stephen, it's not if you give somebody a message and they think you are fraudulent, you're the one that has to prove you're not the customer. A bit like the tax man. Okay, so a tax man can walk up to you, Stephen. I'm just saying this, and thanks for joining us. Is to say, Stephen, you earned £300,000 last year. You go, no, I didn't, and they say, prove it. It's a little bit like saying, people now, and I've done this for years, and it's something when the fraud before it was, is I would always tape my messages, my sit-ins with people, because if you look at this is a strange thing to say to you, but if you as a medium or a card reader or anything else, you're talking about the future. So let's say, Stephen, you'll say to somebody, am I going to get married? Yes, you're going to get married. Am I going to marry my wife? Mary, just for instance, will Mary be my wife? Yes, Mary will be my wife. When will this be? June. So you go and book a hall and you do everything else and you spend all this money and getting it out and you get everybody in, and she doesn't, because she had no intention of getting married. You've been told by somebody. That person who gave you the message can be in trouble. They can be. In fact, when I was in Philadelphia, the commissioner went over there, and all these shops you see with psychic on them come in, $10, $20, $50, whatever it was. Overnight, he closed them all. And he said, I want you to be licensed. I want you to be registered. I want you to. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. We should have, I believe, some form of, I call it an acknowledgement that you do what you do and people can find you. Yes, in the police there were lots of people that came over. They were the Canadian gypsies that came over, and they were not doing what we did, but they were saying to people, oh, you've got a curse on you, give me some of your jewelry, we'll take it up to our special place and we will curse it and we'll bring it back to you and your curse will be taken away. Well, they never come back, did they? They had all your jewelry, thousands, and they lots of them got arrested. But that's just one example.
This is all walks of life, no matter what you are. If you're a medium, a healer, a surgeon, a dentist, a doctor, there is always going to be a need for standards, a need for ethics, and knowing yourself that you're applying that to yourself. I am pleased within some branches of spiritualism, accreditation and certification is available for some, but because it's a very personal level, personal thing, we don't all follow the same. There is no one governing body. And my belief, there is no one governing body because, as we've already said, we're all individuals. And to apply a law to everybody would be like, hang on.
Everybody who drives a car has to have a driving license.
Yeah.
I don't think there would be too much of a problem. Everybody of my age could get a bus pass, right? So all I do is I go in, I register who I am, they give me a bus pass and I could go on the buses for nothing. Me, I feel we could do this. We could do it, and I've heard this thrown back at me. Oh, yeah, but I've got mediumship. I've got insurance. Insurance gives you nothing. It is a protection. It doesn't say you're a good healer. It doesn't say you're a good medium. It doesn't say that. You can't get insurance for a car and say I'm a good driver, because if you think about it, when you do have a knock or whatever, they allow you to have so many things. So I just believe, and this is my belief, it wouldn't be a problem if people could know who they are and where they go. That's what I'd be.
Yeah, no, I agree. There is certainly scope there to look into that.
I
It
don't know
depends.
what that means, Stephen, to be honest.
Oh, that was
Documentation.
following up from your
Yeah,
conversation on that, because you were saying about when you tape everything,
yeah.
when you said you tape all your messages,
Yes, yeah.
and that was Stephen's response to that part of the evening. And yeah, it's very true. I've encouraged people. I'll hands up, I am not a fan of doing private sit-ins, but I do have an agreement with Spirit. If there's a need, I physically get that, a finger run up the back of my head, and I go, okay, I'll do it. And I always encourage the sitter to tape it, because I will say things and later on you'll need to revert back to it. You tape it, all right? And then I don't do it in the energy of, and if there's any dispute, we've got a recording, but I do it because I want to make that person feel assured and comfortable. And also we are starting up a process. We're being open, honest and everything about things.
I don't have a problem with people like the sitter recording everything to say. That's what I'm saying. I would, if you've never had a reading before, it's great because you take it home and you listen to it the time again. You know, you might listen to it 3 or 4 times and think, now I know what was said. I couldn't get that.
Yeah, very much so. And we all do it, don't we? I've sat there and...
But it's each to their own. It's each their own. I'm not advocate, saying to you, you've got to do it. I'm saying it would help. It would help.
Definitely. Here we go. I'm best at mediumship, although a bit of a lazy medium. I need more practice. I would never want payment if I could give validation to someone like Terry Stromier gave me about 18 years ago. Yeah, I fully agree there, Barbara. One thing, I know it's your evening, Keith, but I am going to jump on this one. I do say whenever I see mediums saying about, we need to practice, you don't practice mediumship, you do mediumship. Every time you work with spirit, you are doing mediumship. You can refine and hone the way that you work with your team, but to give it the title of, I need to practice it, it's sort of like, well, if it goes wrong, it's a bit like baking. I'll practice making that cake, it didn't rise, so never mind, I'll try again. So it's just a mindset thing, and I'm terrible on these mindset things. We never practice mediumship, we do mediumship every time.
I think it's important what you're saying. No, I think it's what you're saying, and this is what Barbara came to me, is that she wants to give validation. She's had validation. So what validation is to her may be different to the next person. So if I was just going to church and I thought, I don't care what they tell me, but if my dad comes through and says, rhubarb, that's all I want. I know my dad's there. So if I'm sitting there and you stand there by me and go, I'd like to come to you with a red shirt. This might sound daft. I've got a load of rhubarb here, and I think it's your dad, but that's all I've got. That's all I wanted. That's all I wanted. So you cannot prejudge what your sitter wants. So Barbara, crack on, girl. You will find that the more I say practice, but the more you do it, the more you will find out. Be honest with yourself and have a good pal, a good friend who says, you was cheeky today, you were rude today, you didn't do this today, you did do that. And you've got to accept that not everybody will like you. But if you're working with truth and honesty and love, that will shine through. So thumbs up, Barbara. Don't give in.
Yeah, it is so true. And it does highlight as well another aspect that some people can go down. We try to constrain what spirit give us to our wants. And that can often block or negate the whole event, because we should just be open. Somebody here has just said exactly what's on my mind. Trust what they give you.
And it's what you learn, Dean. It's what you learn. You learn trust. You learn to trust the spirit. You learn, and I say spirit, but from what you're getting and what you're doing. Having said that, on the same thing, if you trust If you trust a good friend to tell you you were wrong, that's fine. But I've seen mediums argue with people who are sat in the audience saying, no, I'm telling you, take it home, take it home. You know, I call it the carrier bag messages. You know, I've got a Dirt, a Bic, an Harry, a John, whoever it might be. No, by the time you go up with 2 carrier bags. You go, what you got? I've got Bert in here, Jack in here, I've got a dog in here. You know, and you go, what are you talking about? You know, that's what it is. What I don't like, and this is what I don't like, and I will never in my life accept this, is when you have people who are working on a platform or a theatre or whatever their stage might be, who are actors, when they are giving a symptom of somebody's passing, whether it be taking their own life, whether it be a stabbing, whether it be a heart attack. And, you know, I've had a heart attack. And if I know what it's like. I've had a couple, and you get mediums go, oh, I can't breathe. And they go and get a drop of water. It's like, get off the platform. Don't want you. You're being a disgrace to spirit, because there is no need to do it. You can say, as I'm talking to you, they're making me aware that I've got pains in my chest or whatever. But you're thinking, what we said at the beginning, we're talking about spirit. They're not spirit, the people we're talking to. The people we're talking to is somebody's mum, somebody's dad, somebody's brother, somebody's father. You might have sat, and I've heard this said, you might have sat next to your twin brother. You know, you haven't got one, have you? So we're just using this as an example. You sat with your twin brother for 6 months, day in, day out, as he battled through cancer. But then you go to get a cup of tea because you've spent 12 hours there and you're parched. And then he passes. And when you get back, and the medium says, you weren't even there when he passed, were you? They've got to be very careful what they say. And, you know, a medium said to me, a very, very well-respected medium, you're a medium, not a comedian. So too many people now, not over the years that I've seen, people want to be funny and have jokes. And you can talk about something that's funny, but you don't say things to get a cheap laugh or use bad language, or, you know, there are lots of ways of saying things that you don't have to use bad words. That's something I don't like. I'm sorry. And, I think we've had this discussion before that, you know, if you were a president and you've got somebody, a medium who's effing and blinding on there, there's no place for that. You know, there's no place for it.
It's very true, because also with the mediumship side of it, it's the deeper meaning, of the messages. If a medium does their job properly, come to you and give you sufficient evidence. You just walked in off of the street, all right? You're here, you're in some state of mind where you're questioning, you want an answer. Spirit hear that. Spirit will hear that. If you've got any knowledge of mediumship or not, it matters not. Spirit will hear that. So you go in there and you get a message, and they bring through your mum, your dad, your gran, whoever, with enough evidence. You know, you've walked in as a stranger, a complete stranger on the platform has given you enough evidence about somebody who is now in spirit. That's spirit saying to you, you know, this happens to them, it's going to happen to you. So what value is this life here? It's the deeper meanings with our mediumship that we need to probably enforce a bit more with people, because this is where I'm... Pre this time of COVID, I was getting quite despondent, because it was every night there was a demonstration of mediumship on all the time, 24. So I called it the message go round. You could go anywhere, anytime, get a message. You can lie in bed, phone up, get a pizza delivered and have a message. And I just thought, this is actually, to me, demeaning to spirit, because we're losing the value of the message, and it's become about the message. It's become about the medium and not the message.
I think that is so true. But just going back to the practicing as a medium, you do practice as a medium. You do practice. You know, when you sit in your development classes, you practice. You get a teacher who's telling you, that you shouldn't be saying that. You shouldn't be doing that. So you practice what you preach. So if you're giving, like I've just said, if you were sat in my circle and you were giving me this theatrical message, you know, I would say, you don't do that. You don't do that. Oh, well, Spirit have given me that. No, they're not. No, they're not. You can take it down. You can take it down. If you get things wrong, you practice. Why did I get it wrong? You know, the practice comes from what you get back when you do a message. So if somebody, you get no ticks for getting things right. You don't learn from getting things right. You learn when you're getting it wrong.
Yeah, that's true.
You do learn a little bit because you thought, oh, must have done that right. But then when you get it wrong, if you go back into yourself and see what you're doing wrong, you will know what you've done wrong. You will know what you've done wrong. Oh, I rushed a bit. Oh, I was quick. I shorted that up. You know, it's like that. It's like I've seen people give a message and they will spend 30 minutes in one message. And they say, why did you spend half an hour doing that? Well, because Spirit said I've got to do that. No, they didn't. They didn't. I've seen people, and I'm sure you've seen them, they give a message and then they go to the next person and they come back to the same person. Go back to Laurie. Oh, you can take that then, Laurie, can you? Yeah. And they spend all night talking to one person because you're the yes man. You know, yes men are no good. No good. You know what I mean? That they are, but I'm being a bit brutal here for some people. But I'm just saying, don't be put off by what I'm saying. What I'm trying to do is to say to you, let's be honest about what we do. I've had bad nights. I've had nights when I haven't done it. And I've kind of thought, I've railed with Spirit. Why did I do this? Why did I do that? I wake up the next morning and it's like a light bulb. I did that. I did that. You know? So we need friends. And the friends that we have are our spiritual friends, but also people like you and me that run development classes. And you've got to accept that you're not going to be right all the time. Don't argue with us. If I said to you, oh, Lawrence, you got a twin brother in Spirit. No, I haven't. Yes, you have. No, I haven't. Yes, you have. I'm telling you have. You think about it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Don't want any more from you. No, I've got more. No, I don't want any more. Do you see what I mean? It's not a give and take kind of thing. But there are times when people can say, oh, I've got this with you. Would you understand it? No. Now, if I said it a different way, if I said that, you go, yeah, I understand it now. So that's where I learn. That's a practice that I learn. You know, when I talk about practice, that's a practice that I learn. It's okay to be wrong.
Yeah. I think where I'm coming from with the word practice, I just get a little bit, I can't say that word online, but a little bit focused sometime on words. And I
Me too.
Yeah, it's words are funny. I mean, if you say rose, you've got a flower, you've got a line of houses, you've got something that's come up out of the ground. It's a word, different connotations. It's just sometimes when I hear this practice thing, but we'll move away from that. Stepping away, all the way from America. How's your elections going, darling? Lovely Joan.
Yeah.
And how true? So
well, how's your hearing, Joan?
Yeah.
Because now I mean this nicely. She was asking something the other day, and it might come in here. She said, "Well, what if you're giving a message, or you're trying to do something, you don't see things or hear things because you're like she is having difficulties with hearing?" Well, there are not so many people with sight problems and hearing problems who actually work through Spirit. And I know Joni, she is actually getting, since the benefit of this lockdown, she has been able to visit your church a lot of times on this. I'm not talking about physically, on things that I do. And it's opened up her mind. If that's the leastest thing it did. But she, and I can say this, Joni, in the word, she practiced with members of the family, right? So when people say, and they do say this sometimes, and this is just a little thing that I do, and I'll do it in another chat that I'm doing. When people say, I'm on my own, I can't practice, right? Here's a little tip. What about somebody sending you 4 piece of paper with a picture in it, in an envelope, and you don't open it, you sit there and you see and you ask spirit to come in and give you what you can get, have a pen, write down what you get on it, and then when you've done it, you open it up and you go, blimey, I didn't know, that's so close to what I was getting. Because you don't need anybody in front of you, if that makes sense to you. You know, there are different ways that we can do. So yeah, that's it. Really, there are lots of things we can actually do a practice rather than practice, as we were saying. Mm-hmm. We better stop talking about practice.
yeah. I think we'll put that to bed, shall we?
Yeah, I hope you're okay, Joey. Anyway.
Yeah. There's a little side comment from Ern.
Yeah, we know what colour that is, Joan.
Here's an interesting one. There we go, from the lovely Christina. Isn't it so that if the medium has a low moral standard and has a big ego, he or she will lose the mediumistic abilities? Does the spirit world want to work with such a medium?
The answer is, sadly, Christina, they will. And yes, they do. The same way, if you look at it this way, and I'll come back and explain that in a moment. You get people with the millionaires, 20 million, 30 million, 40 million, and they are complete idiots. And all these people say, oh, give this to charity. Some people do, but I'm saying, and then they say within 2 years, they've done all their money. Now, what will happen, Christina, is that when people who are mediums that have low moral standards, how often do you see this? As an example, people see, I'm like an elephant, really. I remember things. You look on Facebook and you have people say, they absolute, I want to say, a current of abuse about a partner or about another medium or about something else, goes on and on and on. And then it says, Fred Smith, spiritual medium. And yet they've spent 10 words that have all got the swear words and everything else. So where is their moral standards in that? I agree with what you're saying, Chris. To me, they should be outed, if you like, and they do, because people will come up to me and they'll say, oh, Keith, have you seen this medium? Oh, they do this, they do that. There is an underground, believe me, there is underground of information that goes round to churches, to people like booking secretaries for other mediums that Lawrence will tell you, you hear, don't touch that person, don't do this, they did this, they did that. The spirit world doesn't want to work with them. And you will find they probably aren't mediums. They probably aren't. They are probably poor psychics, and they will not have a good ability. But you cannot judge, you and we cannot judge what they're like as a person, but you can judge what their work is like. I went through a stage, quite honestly, when I lost my son, and I was quite angry. I was quite angry with spirit. And I became, for 3 or 4 appearances that I did, I was quite aggressive in my demonstration, and I thought, this isn't right. Why am I like this? Why am I like this? Why is this? And you come back and you look into yourself and it's like, yeah, that's my anger working through, and I should give it a break for a month. I've got to check myself. So hope that helps, Chris. I'm not arguing with you, but I'm just saying there are 2 coins to people that are, and I'm sure you've come across them, Lawrence.
Yeah, I have a slightly different thought on that. We talk about mediums work with spirit, but we're sort of a bit negligent to say, well, we've been here already in this talk. What spirit? What is their standard? We do tend to ignore or not look at if you were of very low moral standards this side of life, you led, want a better word, you led a very godless life, you were against anything good, you were all about self, the me, the ego, and everything. When you pass over, that's not going to be taken off of you. You know, that's not going to suddenly disappear. It's not like an overcoat we can leave behind. We've woven that into our soul. That spirit, those spirits have an ability to communicate through mediumship, and they can lead mischief. They can bring in upset and discourse.
Can't
And
agree with you. Can't agree with you.
no,
Lawrence.
that's fine.
No, I tell you why. I tell you why. What about your doorkeeper? It's his job to sort out your communicators.
Yeah,
That's what you have. So your doorkeeper would stop those people coming out. They would stop those people coming through. It might be that the medium is not understanding. I had I'll give you this example. I had a communicator that went to this lady, and everything he was saying was F this, F that, and whatever. And I said, you've got to stop this, otherwise I'm not passing on this message, right? And then I spoke to the lady and I said, I'm really sorry about this, but I've got this gentleman. He claims to be your husband, but every word is this, that, and, you know, bad words. She said, that was my husband. So they might, Chris, they might just turn it, their interpretation of it, the wrong way. You know, as I said to you, I've managed to speak to people throughout my life that I'll come about people that every other word is a bad word. And I've spoken to people that are priests, you know, they're not the same. So I believe, but it's for discussion, that if you have your doorkeeper who is there to see who can come in and come out, I personally wouldn't want to give bad language on a stage, which we were saying before, because it reflects on me. It doesn't say, oh, Spirit did that. Spirit did that. You are responsible. You've got your eyes, you've got your mouth, you've got your actions. So if you're a good medium, you control that. You control that. The same as we were saying before. So I'm sorry, I'm not being rude. I just feel personal responsibility.
Yeah.
Because they're one of the seven principles, aren't they?
I agree wholeheartedly, and I do agree with the what you're saying about the doorkeeper, but I'm talking about the medium on this side of life who haven't developed or discerned the spirit. One of the first things I was taught, and I'm sure you had the same in circle as well, and many people, is to discern spirit. Us as mediums are in contact with spirit, but us as people are in contact with other people. Now, we don't go out and hug everybody and love everybody that we see, because some people are not for us. Some people are of a different standing, a different whatever, and their energies and ours won't go well together. With mediumship and the way it's being rushed through and pushed through and getting people to open up every 5 seconds and don't bother shutting down, and there is no such thing as evil. You know, you're just hearing things and you're saying, whoa, 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 whoa. Mediumship is discerning the spirit, is setting your standard and improving on your standards all the time and raising. I always say I need to work with the highest and the best that I can achieve.
I think we all have to remember that when every time you stand on a platform, every time, whether it be to give an opening prayer, people are listening, people are judging you, people are absorbing what you say. So when you're giving a message, and you, like I do, I make mistakes sometimes because of my ability to speak properly, but after my stroke, I will come back and say, did I just say banana? And you go, yeah, you did. You know, it comes back 2 seconds later. I said, I meant ballroom. You know, it's like, oh, yeah. So it's kind of, but I think some people don't even, if you like, you know, with predictive text, some people have predictive messages. That's what I'm going to say. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to say. Because it was funny the last time, or people enjoyed it last time. You can't take a message with you. But there's only, as somebody said to me, You know, there's only one way you could give a message about mediumship, and that is somebody died. You know, you're talking to somebody who passed away. How you deal with that death, I'll give you an example. When I was in the police, I used to do lots of please allow. And that was please allow you to call on so and so and tell them their mum's died, their dad's died, their son's died, whatever it might be. That taught me a lot about relationships with people who are dealing with grief and how you put it across. Very sad. Sometime one night, I spent 6 hours talking to a family who'd lost their dad, who'd gone under a train. Then I went to another one. A lady was cleaning her windows. I pulled up in the police car. You knew it was police because it had police on it. But I got turned up in a police car and she went, "Oh man, is it?" I said, "Yeah." "Dead, is it?" "Yeah." "Thanks, love." I had a glowing letter of how considerate I was and how I did this. I didn't at all. I think she must have had a few quid come through from the passing, you know. But do you know what I mean? You get people who, when you're giving a message, when people are giving messages, some people have in their head who they want to hear from. So whatever you say, they don't want it. They want that one person, that one thing. They want to hear it. So it's difficult.
Yeah. Keith, thank you so much. Absolutely wonderful evening. Yeah, very enlightening. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Next Thursday, 7 o'clock, we have Jack Eckhart Lundlund from Denmark. He will be talking. He's head of the Danish Spiritual Association and runs his own school of mediumship over there. So that'll be wonderful. Regarding the church activities, our remembrance service, always a very, very special service here at Poole Church, will be broadcast live from within the church, but sadly without a congregation due to the restrictions at this time. Also, just for those people living locally to us, I will be opening up the church on Remembrance Sunday between 10 and 12 for private prayer. We've all been denied going to the cenotaph and the memorials in the town, but the church, I won't go down there because I've got soapboxes out, so you won't see me. However, the church will be open for personal prayer from 10 till 12 on Remembrance Sunday morning, followed by the live broadcast from the church at 3 p.m. with David Jackson. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you very much, Keith. Thank you, Christine, in the background. We're actually next door.
Yeah, I've enjoyed this. Like as I say, we are individuals. They're just my views. And
no, it's true.
You know, as somebody said to a friend of mine once, who was very well known in entertainment, he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, if I've offended you, get over it." And I thought that was a great way to sort of say to people, look, you know, that's gone now, but just take from it what you want, Laurie, as we should all do. So God bless you. Thanks very much indeed.
God bless you. All right, then. Say good night to everybody.